into tech situations. I know it's been a while since we've had an episode. My first two episodes were audios. I wanted to make this more personable and more fun by bringing this on in videos and in interviewing some amazing people in the tech industry. So for those of you who may just be starting at this episode, my name is Ebony Hall. I am a U.S. veteran from Columbus, Georgia. I currently live in Atlanta, Georgia. I've been in the IT field for over 15 plus years, having been deployed 3 times and then becoming an IT professional. After leaving the military, I went through a 1 year long boot camp and obtained certifications such as CompTIA A Plus, Network Plus, Security Plus, CCNA, CEH, you name it, I've done it. I have worked in support, engineering, administration, and management. I've also been an IT instructor for the formerly incarcerated in the Second Chance program. In addition to managing and mentoring, I'm a proud owner of Incredible Minds IT Staffing Solutions, which is evidence of my dedication to the excellence in the IT field. And my mission is to encourage others to succeed in the dynamic field of information technology. So today I will be interviewing an amazing software developer, Louis Kim. I'm going to allow you, Louis, to introduce yourself, and then I want to have a few questions to ask you.
Gotcha. Thank you, Ebony. Hi, my name's Louis Kim. I guess I don't have too much of a robust introduction such as yours, but I live in the Bay Area. I'm a software developer, and I've been in the industry for about 2 years.
Awesome. And how's that going for you? You liking it?
I love it. It's great.
Awesome. So, Louis, can you tell us about your journey in getting into software development? What inspired you to pursue the career?
Yeah. So I guess I'll kind of give like a really brief history. I started out as just a bartender, a server, a general manager of a restaurant, and basically going to school, and it was like really hard schedule. I was not getting any sleep, and kind of figured at some point, like maybe 10 years into bartending and doing hospitality work, that, you know, I didn't really see a path forward. I didn't see a lot of room for growth. And so I decided, like, before I turned 30, I kind of made a promise to myself that I'm going to try 110% at something. And whatever it was going to have to be, that's it. And so kind of took like a big dive. And one of my very close friends, he's also a senior front-end engineer, but he kind of pushed me along, and I went to a coding boot camp. And from there, I don't know, I got hired back at an old company that I used to work at that was doing hospitality, but I was doing their like kind of more technical work they had there, which wasn't, I would say, a lot. And then COVID happened, and then I moved in with my buddy Andy, who he is my mentor, and basically my career kind of really accelerated from there. And then shortly afterwards, I got hired at a company.
And you picked a great career. Once you get in, man, you can't stop.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So, Louis, how would you describe your primary area of expertise within software development, and what specific technologies or languages do you specialize in?
I would say that I have done full stack work, but my primary focus is front end. And that entails like user interfaces, and technologies that I use is React, JavaScript, TypeScript, and a bit of Node. And JavaScript is nice because it kind of allows you to traverse the front end and back end side of things.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Now, reflecting on your career, what are some key projects or accomplishments you're very proud of?
Yeah, so before I got a job, I kind of, everyone tells you that you should do tutorials, and this is how you learn the most, and you need to build a project that like pertains to you. And so for a long time, I kind of was just wandering around, didn't know how to even think of anything. And I think that was kind of like because I lacked the knowledge to kind of like see where I could insert technology into an area that didn't exist. But it kind of dawned upon me when I was like playing in a volleyball tournament, and this was outdoor, and we were, you know, at the tournament writing scores down on a piece of paper, handing it into somebody. They were taking the time to kind of calculate these scores, and the whole process kind of like archaic. And then I thought, I'm like, why wouldn't this be an application that can be viewed from a direct, like a tournament management aspect and also a player aspect? So I gathered all the requirements by talking to a lot of players, talked to the tournament organization who are close friends of mine. So it was easy to kind of have this conversation with them, see what their pain points were, work with them kind of on a bi-weekly basis. And then from there, I started building a fairly large project that took me, and I didn't even complete a lot of it, but what spurred it was that instance. And I got to the point where we ran it successfully for one of a smaller tournament, but basically the app allowed players to take scores down on their phone, submit the data to the tournament organization, and then they would calculate. I would basically auto calculate the scores. So on the back end of things, that they didn't have to manage as much, and papers wouldn't get lost, and like it became a much more succinct experience for players and tournaments and tournament organizations. So it was cool. I liked it a lot, and there was a lot of cool things that I learned, and it was very difficult, but I enjoyed the process very thoroughly.
Impressive.
Thanks.
So, with that being said, how do you stay up to date with the latest trends and advancements in software development?
Yeah, I guess like one, I'm always kind of talking to my old coworkers, seeing like, oh, is there anything cool you're working on? And a lot of times, like, they're also reading up on things, and that usually gives me just like little breadcrumbs of like kind of what to look up. That's like just one source. I'm a subscriber of Medium, and I'm subscribed to like many different tech people that just kind of like talk about the new emerging technologies. So I would say like one, the Medium articles is like one of them as well. And like, I think the main source I get is through YouTube. I follow like three people who they're all like very senior engineers who always look at new stuff and kind of criticize and give the pros and cons of what it can do versus like what it can't do, and how they see it in the current landscape of technology. And then I guess it's just like I talk to a lot of different people, like primarily my friends who are working in tech. I just ask them what they're doing at their job. And then from there, they, a lot of them do sales. So it's like, oh, let me look into your product. Let me see what it does. Let me see like if this is like consumable for me. But yeah, those are just like a kind of all the different avenues I use to stay up to date.
Yeah, Louis, I definitely agree with you. Keeping in contact with your friends and asking them what are they doing. I do that now. Me and some of my friends, we have a group chat. And when I'm looking at something, before I even go to Google, half the time I'll just write them and be like, hey, have you guys seen this before? And most of the time, one of them have seen it before. And if not, I'll do my research and then I'll put it in the chat and say, hey, this is what I found. And just kind of like we have our own little knowledge base in our text messages.
Yeah, that's cool. I definitely do that as well.
Yeah, that's very beneficial. People don't think to do that, but it's very beneficial. If you have tech friends, don't be afraid to ask them. This is what
Yep.
we do.
Definitely a little nerdy, but I mean it's fun. It's
Yeah,
cool because like they're in that space, they're working on it, and I want to know, and they can speak about it, so it's nice.
for sure. And Louis, can you share a challenging situation you encountered during a project and how you overcame it and what lessons you learned from that experience?
Yeah, there's like many different challenging situations I've been in. I think one of them was like my very first task I was given at my last job, and I kind of like didn't entirely know what it is that I was supposed to be doing. And so what my approach to that was like, okay, let's like look at, the end result, and then let's kind of work backwards to see what it is that I don't know, and then let's look at the code base to see if there's any prior examples. Unfortunately, there wasn't, but there were similar things that I could spot out. And so, I got stuck a lot because like it was my first task ever, and I didn't know the code base, and it was like kind of looking at like someone else's mess, and I was like, I don't know what to do, and I got overwhelmed at times. But I think what always brought me back is like asking myself what it is that I'm doing, and taking, being patient in terms of like, if I'm looking at something for too long, I probably am like too much in the weeds, don't know, I'm probably getting frazzled. And normally I'll take like a step back and kind of always ask myself, like, what am I doing? And then when I can answer that question, it's like, right, let's stay objective and not dive too deep into other things that I think are not pertinent to what I'm working on.
And it's easy to do that. You
Yeah,
start diving into other stuff. You see something else and you start getting into that, but you gotta stay on track, right?
just like a dog finding a squirrel, just like squirrel.
Right. I totally feel that.
Yeah.
Collaboration is often a crucial aspect of software development. I know, even with you just reaching out to your friends, that's a great collaboration, but how do you approach working in a team, and what strategies do you employ to ensure effective communication and cooperation in the workplace?
Yeah, I guess that's like an interesting one. I guess for me, it's collaboration has come like very naturally to me, and I think it's because I have a very good read on people. So I'm just like super open with what I'm thinking, being very transparent with the other person, but also really what it comes down to when I worked with like more difficult engineers was taking the time to listen to them, because I don't know if you've had experience with a lot of other engineers, but sometimes like they really want to get their point across, or I guess this is people in general, but like sometimes people will talk at you, or
Mm-hmm.
they will want to get their point across so badly that they will just interrupt you. And so like me recognizing that it's like, okay, now is not my time to speak. I want them to be heard. I want to validate them, and then I want to repeat these things back to them so that, that we're on the same page, so that, they one feel like I'm listening, so that we're going to be like a cohesive team, and two, like I understood what he's saying or he or she is saying. And this is something I do always in my life. So it was like very easy for me to get other people on board and communicate effectively with them. And I just think it's so crucial in cross-functional teams as well to, if you have a question, ask. And I know like people always say that, but I just never see it done when people have questions. They're kind of like scared to say something, but I think just being transparent and being okay with not knowing and asking the things that you don't know actually really allow for a good cohesive team. Yeah.
I totally agree with that. And for my team, I have being resourceful guidelines where when you're going to ask a question, the first thing I want you to do to be resourceful is look to see if there's a knowledge base. If there's not a knowledge base, then go and Google it. And then after you Google it, you don't find anything, YouTube it. If you don't find anything on YouTube, then ask. And when you go and ask, tell me what you've already done so I know where to start and be able to help you. I think that helps a lot when you say, hey, I have this situation. I've looked here, there, and the third. I've tried this. How can you help me? And it makes everything so much easier when you do it that way. But another thing I want to say to people not asking questions is I've found that a lot of times people want to ask questions because they haven't followed those guidelines, right? They haven't done many things. And then the next thing I tell people is don't be afraid. If you've done all those things, don't be afraid to ask the question because you're helping everybody. You may be asking a question that somebody else may need to answer from, and now you have the answer. You can help someone else. And then another thing is the person you're asking the question, teaching is the best teacher. So for them to have to instruct you and show you how to do that, that's a great reflection for them,
Yeah, that's very true. And I guess I didn't think about that in terms of like before you ask a question, do all these things because like I guess I assume that most people are being resourceful when before they ask. And I guess the people who are being resourceful before they ask probably wouldn't even ask the question. So I guess that's more geared towards people who are just kind of like they've done all these things and they're still scared and it's like or really asking clarifying questions if you don't understand, I think is very important as well. So
Absolutely. Yeah. So, do you have any tips for managing stress and maintaining productivity when you are dealing with tight deadlines?
um this is just I guess like something I've always done, and it's like I always embrace the grind and I really embrace the journey to get to somewhere. So like if it's a tight deadline and if you have to work with somebody else and you're dreading it, I think, making light of the situation when you're collaborating with them, because you're going to probably be working like with that person, with that team very closely for the next like week, 2 weeks, whatever it could be. But just kind of treating them like as if they're my friend and like, making jokes where I see fit and making light of the situation and just being upbeat about it because no one wants to like, you know, if it's a tight deadline, no one wants to do anything. It's the last thing you want to do is talk to someone else who like is going to pull you down. So I'm all about, I wouldn't say like I'm like a really not happy person. That's not what I'm trying to say, but like joyful person.
Me
Like
too.
in that moment, I understand that is what, we need. So it's like really just embrace that grind, but also I'm not saying be cheerful, but like make light of the situation.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree with that. And one thing that makes me weird, Louis, is when I'm nervous, I laugh a lot. So I'm
Yeah.
going to joke so that I can
Like
have a
now.
reason to laugh, right? I laugh a lot when I'm nervous. So I think those jokes and just breaking the ice with everyone during the stressful time makes things so much easier and you so much easier to work with. Sometimes I
Yeah,
joke with
definitely.
people and they're like, not right now, I'm not in the mood. I'm like, okay. So then I'll switch gears and then I'll try to be encouraging and be like, I can't do this without you. We got this. It's a small thing to a giant. So that's how I switch gears when they're not up for joking.
I totally
Um,
agree.
in your opinion, what's the most exciting developments or trends in the software development industry right now?
I know what a lot of people are thinking or kind of what's on their mind when it comes to like the trend in software, and you see it in every single company. It's, dot AI and AI and ML and NLP, all this stuff. But I don't know. I think that AI is for sure very interesting. I don't think it's remotely close to replacing people's jobs, and it's very interesting. I've looked at a lot of new emerging like this thing called Devin AI, which they call the first computer software developer, and it's not very good. It's obviously in its very prototype stages, but I don't know. I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm not scared of it just because like I've used ChatGPT a lot for a lot of different things. And even with code, lots of times it can't necessarily like produce large amounts. And a lot of times it actually produces like erroneous code. So it's like incorrect anyways. So I don't know.
Mhm.
I'm really excited to see what happens. I don't know what it'll look like. I think right now it's such like a hot thing for CEOs to kind of look at it and be like, that's what, we're just going to pour all of our resources in there, which I don't know what that's going to look like, but I think it's interesting. I think maybe machine learning and natural language processing has a, a bigger forthcoming than just, ChatGPT, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm currently studying machine learning. I always say though that for any initiative, a person has to initiate it. So there's no
True.
reason for any of us to be scared,
Yeah.
right? So can you share a piece of advice for those who aspire to be a software developer or those who are just starting their journey in this field?
Oh, yeah. I think be patient with yourself. If you know you're gonna get stuck, and I think my mentor laid it out the best. Like when you start off, 90% of the time you're gonna be frustrated. 10% of the time you will probably be like, "Oh, this works," and gradually that becomes more balanced in terms of, or not balanced. It just tips the scale the other way, and like knowledge in terms of like learning code is just layering on paint to like a painting that you can always layer more on. And I think, really embrace the journey. I'm not going to say it's easy because it wasn't, but utilize all of the resources around you. If you know anyone that's a programmer who you're close with or someone else knows, reach out to them. Try to find a community, and online communities are difficult just because people fall off very quickly. They don't follow up. It's really hard. So if you know someone like physically and you can meet with them in real life, like 100% recommend that in terms of like mentorship. And even finding a good engineering mentor is pretty difficult, but I would say like don't give up. There's going to be a lot of times where you struggle, but I think it's worth it. Um, and always try to reach out to people who seem willing to give you mentoring advice. Like if you find an inkling of that, that has been my greatest asset to me, basically, was having a mentor push me along when I didn't want to do it, or giving me confidence when I didn't have any. So having a mentor really, it changes everything in terms of how you learn and how you think about code and seeing better code and pushing along, so don't give up. Find someone, seek out mentorship, um, and keep trying.
Talk heavy, Lewis. I definitely agree with that. Like one thing that I did not do starting my career is I didn't get a mentor. I started so far back though, a lot of people weren't doing tech back then either.
Mm,
And that's one thing I did wish I had, but I got a chance to jump in and learn how to swim myself so that I could
yep.
help other people. Mentorship is very important, no matter how you get it, whether it's being a part of a community, finding someone that you know, or creating your own community with hopes of someone having more experience than you and collaborating with them. So mentorship is the most important one to me of all of them. Because when you're studying for that cert or you're trying to do different labs, you're gonna need a partner. You know,
Yep. Definitely.
but Louis, you're all the way from California. Thank you so much. This has been a pleasure speaking with you. Um, Take Situations is back. We're gonna be on video from now on, and we'll drop every Friday. This one right here may come out the next Friday, not the 21st, but the following Friday after that. And you guys stay tuned.
Thanks so much, Ebony. That was great. That was awesome.